My parents, who had ignored me for years, thought they could take my inheritance. The moment I walked into the courtroom, the judge froze. Wait, the charges are against. And just like that, my entire life and their carefully constructed plan unraveled in front of everyone. If you've ever been dismissed, ignored, or underestimated by your own family, hit that subscribe button right now. Like this video, comment below if you've ever felt powerless, and stay tuned, because this story isn't just about revenge, it's about justice delivered with precision. I grew up in a house where I was practically invisible. My parents had their favorites, my siblings, their friends, anyone who wasn't me. Birthdays? Forgotten. Achievements? Downplayed. Praise? Reserved for others. I was always the quiet one, the underachiever, the kid who wasn't worth their attention. But my grandmother, she was different. She saw me. Even when the rest of the family dismissed me as a nobody, she would sit me on her lap and ask about my dreams. She didn't just ask, she listened. She encouraged me in a way that made me believe that I, too, could be more than what my parents ever expected. Then, one winter evening, everything changed. My grandmother passed away. She was 89, sharp until the end, and incredibly wealthy, millions in investments, estates, and intellectual property. I wasn't expecting anything, honestly. But when her lawyer called, I froze. I had inherited her entire estate. Every single asset, from her luxury penthouse to her offshore accounts, was now legally mine. The first thought that flashed through my mind wasn't excitement, it was disbelief. I had been invisible my entire life, and now, suddenly, I had more money than my parents could ever imagine. It didn't take long for them to react. Within weeks, they were on the phone with lawyers, filing paperwork, claiming I wasn't mentally competent, accusing me of manipulation, and even implying I had coerced my grandmother. My parents, the same people who ignored me, mocked me, and told me I'd never amount to anything, they suddenly wanted a piece of my inheritance. The calls, emails, and threats became relentless. Every message dripped with entitlement. You'll ruin our family, they said. You don't deserve any of this. I felt my chest tighten every time I read their words, the familiar sting of betrayal mixing with an odd, simmering sense of vindication. For weeks, I tried to reason with them, calmly explain the legal facts, but it was useless. Their sense of entitlement blinded them. And that's when I realized I wasn't going to just defend myself. I was going to let the law speak, and I was going to let them watch every step unravel. The day of the hearing arrived. I remember walking into the courthouse, my heels clicking on the polished marble, my heart racing not with fear, but anticipation. My parents were already there, sitting smugly, thinking they had the upper hand. Their lawyers whispered to them, pointing occasionally in my direction, eyes gleaming with a mixture of greed and confidence. I stepped up to the podium, calm, collected, and ready. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, looked at me, then at my parents' legal team. There was a brief pause, a silence heavy enough to feel like it could break glass. Then the judge asked, "Wait, the charges are against." It was my moment. I let the pause stretch. Their smug faces began to falter as they realized the truth. The entire case, the accusations, the lawsuits, the threats were completely baseless. They had underestimated me in every conceivable way, assuming that their money and influence would bend the law to their will. They had assumed I was powerless. The courtroom proceedings moved quickly after that. My lawyer presented the will, meticulously detailing my grandmother's wishes. Every clause was airtight. Every asset was clearly designated to me. The judge read through the documents carefully, then looked at my parents and said something I'll never forget. "You are attempting to challenge a legally binding will without grounds. The court cannot proceed with your claims. This case is dismissed." The room went silent. My parents' faces turned red, pale, then an awkward shade in between, their mouths opening and closing as if words could somehow fix what had just happened. But words couldn't. The dismissal wasn't just a legal victory, it was a psychological one. Every insult, every dismissal, every year of neglect they had piled on me came crashing down in one moment of exquisite clarity. But it didn't end there. I didn't just want the courtroom victory. I wanted them to truly understand the depth of their misjudgment. After the trial, I invited them for a family meeting, something they assumed was a truce. They sat down, smug as ever, expecting to lecture me on family responsibilities. Instead, I spoke calmly. I've inherited everything my grandmother left me. Not a dollar more, not a dollar less. I don't want a single thing from you. Because after all these years, I've realized that blood doesn't guarantee love, and power doesn't create respect. You spent decades trying to diminish me, and now, the law has recognized my worth where you never did. I hope this teaches you something about underestimating someone you've ignored. The silence that followed was deafening. No words, no excuses, just a realization that I had won not just legally, but morally, emotionally, and psychologically. Walking away that day, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, vindication, and a strange sense of peace. I realized that revenge isn't about cruelty, it's about justice. It's about standing tall when everyone has tried to push you down. And in that moment, I understood that my grandmother had given me more than an inheritance. She had given me the tools to claim my worth and to demand respect, not through anger, but through calm, undeniable truth. Life has a way of teaching us who truly values us. Sometimes it takes losing and inheriting, silence and confrontation, pain and triumph to realize that the power of validation doesn't come from others. It comes from knowing your own worth. If you've ever been ignored, dismissed, or underestimated, share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to know that justice can be subtle, precise, and devastatingly satisfying. Who knows, you might just find your own victory in the unlikeliest of places.